Deleted session, January 7, 1978. Good evening, the Wanda Saga. You both comment often about Ruber's literal mind, forgetting that it is most knowledgeable as far as symbolic content is concerned. His interpretation of your dreams should make that apparent. So he spoke of his new chair and the Wanda incident and the piece of jewelry. Rob noted from Frank. They said in one breath. Quite acute. Frank too was involved, and so was the chair, and so was Frank's return. In the back of your mind, you questioned whether giving him a new, more comfortable chair to work in was or was not a smart thing to do. Would it encourage him to retreat to his room and his writing? You also wondered if you were doing your duty. Should you insist that Ruber receive conventional but definite help? Better let this be set up. It seemed immediately so that Frank was met with the accomplished fact of a set appointment. You had indeed thought of Wanda somewhat earlier, quite aware, of course, of her emperor. The episode dragged, however, and at lunchtime, when the chair had already been delivered and was an accomplished fact also. Were you just making it more comfortable for Ruber to continue in old ways? That fear led you to make, during your short drive, a quick and quite a desperate entreaty into Frank work too. Wanda had several errands, the bank merely one, and it was her lunch hour. She thought of making the bank trip after lunch, that is, after eating, and instead changed her mind so that you met. She never forgot the help you two gave her one night, when she was frightened, and that connects you to her in Framework 2. Whenever anyone helps you, you keep track of them unconsciously in Framework 2. You were unsure of yourself, however. Your fear was definite, and your uncertainty was next. You were quite aware of the fact, unconsciously, that Wanda's emperor was in fact not going to work out. He dealt with mechanics. He deals with them well. You also wanted Ruber to be aware of your concern, hoping that the concern would serve to accelerate his own determination and ability, and to trigger his resources, so that a medical visit would not indeed be necessary. You felt guilty about the chair. Not that roller skates would have been a more suitable present. Wanda made sure you could have an appointment if you wanted it. This was arranged through ways impossible to tally, all taking place in Framework 2, with the juggling of appointments days earlier, involving appointments made and not made. You pulled from Framework 2 exactly what you wanted. Wanda also wanted to repay your old kindness. Frank, who was expected at noon, did not come until later, because unconsciously he was also aware that something of that nature was occurring. He brought you gifts that were replicas of ancient power sources. Give us a moment. 1 or 2 out of every 4 or 5 stations gets through to you, meaning both of you. Generally, in your society, you grow up taught by many sources that self-disapproval is a virtue. Both religion and science, parents and schools, stress that idea. And it is one of the most important causes of mental alienation, spiritual and physical distress. Behind all of my suggestions and attempts to help you line reins of historical culture or personal episodes that go back to that man's unfortunate habit of self-disapproval regarded as virtue, I do not see particularly a benefit to outlining the origin of the concept throughout history, and you can for yourself trace them in your personal lives. The intellect's function seems largely that of a critic. You are taught to question your motives, your behavior, your feelings, and everything but beliefs. When you really believe disapproval to be a virtue, and you believe in virtue, then you obviously find yourself in a position where the more you disapprove of yourself, the better person you think you are, a contradiction of the most insidious nature, for how can you approve of a self you disapprove of? In such a quandary, all you can do is add disapproval to disapproval, in some twisted hope that somehow some trait or love of the self will end soon. You take it for granted that something is wrong with you personally. As soon as you buy that, you are in trouble, for you will begin to form significances in your behavior to bear out the proposition. This area, hidden, of course, will find materialization, sometimes generally, so that all portions of life have a drab greenness in which the self can never shine. Other people will refuse such a situation and accept one mark, or one mark after another, an organ after organ. Another person will lose job after job. Another person will never find a compatible mate. The symptom or symptoms will follow the area in which the person most strongly disapproves of himself, will hide, distort, or exaggerate those tendencies about which the person feels such disapproval. I have told you steadily that Ruber has no disease. Diseases are simply groups of symptoms that you have categorized in certain orders to begin with. He approved of his mind, for many reasons given in earlier sessions. He related mentally. Nothing wrong in that. You both had exaggerated ideas or distorted ones about the nature of creativity and about people who were creative, and you considered yourselves rightly as creative people. Ruber knew that spontaneity was the basis of his creativity and of anyone else's. To that extent, you disapproved of it. You felt it could be easily overdone, as Sabiel, Mardonel, or Van Gogh. Ruber felt that spontaneity had to be tempered, because spontaneity meant unbridled, rampant, uncontrolled impulse. That belief is a basic one in your society, your religions, and your sciences. So in feeling it, you were both, after all, quite conventional, panicky. Ruber began in his later 30s to check all impulses except those to work. Remember that then, back then, your circumstances were different. He found himself at that age not having as yet produced what he thought he should. Because of other reasons given earlier, he wanted that creativity to pay financially. When he began to achieve some success, so that tools were offered. For example, he checked himself further against such temptations, and to some extent, in theory, if not in practice, you hardly conquered. The habits were set up. They were reflected in the body's motion, day by day, and by your joint patterns of thought and belief. The effects added to the disapproval, for while one purpose was achieved, his stance and walking were affected. Lately, he has realized that spontaneity cannot be treated in such a manner, and that he has given up too much. But your joint disapproval was still there. It makes you uncertain of your abilities, erodes your self-confidence, and prevents you from appreciating your accomplishments, for you feel you must in some way disapprove of them. It prevents you from seeing your individual selves as they are. Recently, I have helped you make some stand against that disapproval. The own exercises help again, because they disengage you and put you in a freed drive, relieving the body momentarily at least of stress and reacquainting it with ease. Ruber rediscovered the wrong book, hardly by accident. The own exercises, with his late understanding, relieved the body enough so that the excellent room exercises began to work on his mind as well as his body. He allowed his body finally to begin to demonstrate some action. This is because he suspended his self-disapproval for a while. You did not tread your chair gift, because of your own habit of disapproval. You dared to be spontaneous with wonder. Whenever you suspend that disapproval, body and mind automatically function better and together, in a smoother fashion. Only your feelings and disapproval and the lack of confidence generated causes and helplessness about Rupert's situation that frequently assails you both. You learned to communicate your disapproval to each other far better, as a rule, than you communicated your approval. What Rupert is doing now is excellent and should be continued. If continued, it will pay more benefit than your present attitude allows you to imagine. The own exercises or aversion should be followed by you also, Joseph. I gave material on the ice and the last dance as of our last session. That situation is being remedied. Now with the changes Rupert has recently noted. End of session, unless you have questions. Ralph said, No, I guess not. Say said, Then use these sessions. My heartiest regards and a fond good evening. Ralph said, Thank you, Seth.